my name is Tristan, and I'm in second grade, and I asked my teacher to show me an experiment where water curves. She couldn't do it because it doesn't curve. The water always finds its level.
What'd your teacher do?
She just didn't talk to me anymore. All she did was walk away. And I was like, what is this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. She couldn't do it. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. I'm a flat earther. My name is Tristan, and I'm in second grade, and I asked my teacher to show me an experiment where water curves. She couldn't do it because it doesn't curve. The water always finds its level.
What'd your teacher do?
She just didn't talk to me anymore. All she did was walk away. And I was like, what is this about? What?
That's okay though. For being so young, you're very, very smart. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work, man, and stay flat, okay?
Okay, I'm a flat earther. She couldn't do it.
Up for sound bites. This is awesome.
To another episode of Anti-Religious Scripture Study with me, Karen B, and of course, just Jack, Flat Earth.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Hallelujah, Shabbat is here. Just a shout out to Spicy Sarah and Griff. We had a great time at their house yesterday, hanging out at their new pad.
Yeah.
Both midpoint between Karen and I, which is pretty fancy. good spot.
Mm-hmm.
Good property.
Yeah.
And shout out to everybody that showed up in chat. Appreciate you showing up. And I'll give my disclaimer. Just Jack's disclaimer. To the religious, if you believe it's wrong to study the scripture outside of your religion or denomination, if you believe your religious leaders or church fathers are incapable of having inherited anti-scriptural traditions of men, if you've already made up your mind about scripture, including the scripture shouldn't be studied at all, then the stream is not for you. To others, if you were open-minded to others' opinions, if you haven't made up your mind about scripture, if you've been turned off to religion but believe there's truth in scripture that may have been changed or hidden by religion, if you live according to scripture and like to dig in and discover more, then the stream is for you. We are looking at scripture in the original language using concordances or dictionaries for root words, as well as context from a non-religion perspective. We will as well have life experience discussion. We are not here to argue with the others about, we are not here to argue with others about theology or doctrine by the traditions of men, including Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. We will be discussing the importance of origins and show how religions contradict scripture. Here we go. FYI, Karen and I were chit-chatting about the recent event and recent election, and just to let everybody know, we don't agree with any of the elections because we don't vote for anybody to be in charge of us over the creator. And we've, it's interesting that it takes this person who was voted in to just mention another person's name, and then everybody just worships that person because his name was mentioned in speech. In this particular instance, Elon Musk, who has made multiple claims over the years, and nothing has been successful, especially by him specifically. So just pointing that out. That's our chit chat this morning. All righty. We can get into chapter 22. Good to see y'all. All right. Whenever you're ready, Karen.
All righty. When you see your brother's ox or his sheep straying away, you shall not hide yourself from them. Return them to your brother without fail.
And not that it's going to be very important in this specific instance, but this straying away, or in King James Version, astray, is actually driven, if they're driven. So, all right.
And if your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it to your own house, and it shall be with you until your brother seeks it, then you shall return it to him.
And bring it to your own house is gathering and storing it to the middle of your house. Then, of course, this is not house as in, like, in the building where you dwell, but in your property.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously, you can make use of it while it's there, but it's not yours. So we'll continue on.
And so you do with his donkey, and so you do with his garment, and so you do with whatever your brother loses, which he has lost and you have found. You are not allowed to hide yourself.
So not finders keepers. All right.
Mm-hmm. When you see your brother's donkey or his ox fall down on the way, you shall not hide yourself from them. Help him raise them without fail.
Okay.
A woman does not wear that which pertains to a man, nor does a man put on a woman's garment, for whoever does this is an abomination to Yehovah your Elohim.
Even if you transition. All right, 6.
When you come upon a bird's nest along the way, in any tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, do not take the mother with the young.
Okay, this is an interesting commandment that is in the Jewish circles, they call this the least commandment. And there's a parallel in the New Testament that Yeshua says, whoever breaks the least of these commands and teaches men to do so will not enter into the kingdom of heaven. And so when you parallel the Jews and this verse, it's like saying if you ever eat the egg and the mother, then you won't get into heaven. There's actually a, excuse me, hold on one second, sorry. there is a theological discussion that he's speaking about this commandment, which I think is ridiculous. But what this is talking about is it's the depletion of life, right? If you take the egg, the mother can lay more eggs. If you take the mother, the eggs can hatch and there's more birds. But if you take the eggs and the mother, you're depleting the continuation of life. And that's why this is command,
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Let the mother go without fail, and take the young for yourself, so that it might be well with you, and that you shall prolong your days.
See, and you got to think about this. Like, why would it prolong my days? Well, because that's a continuation of the food that continues on.
Mm-hmm.
You don't deplete all the animals. You take one or the other. All right. 8.
When you build a new house, then you shall make a parapet for your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house when one falls from it.
Okay, this is not a modern consistency. They do exist, but do you know what a parapet is?
Not really.
Okay,
I'm
so
trying
a
to
parapet
picture
is
one in my
basically
head, but I can't.
a parapet is basically a roof wall. So you can get up on the roof and hang out or do whatever you need to do up there, whether it be repairs or they had flat roofs so you could hang out there, but it's a roof so you don't or it's walls on the roof so you don't fall off.
Oh, it's like a railing.
Yeah. I mean, it would be part of the structure. Like the walls would go higher than the roof.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be a solid wall because you need, irrigation. The water needs to go somewhere. So it would be like, like a wall with slats or slots in the bottom of it. That's what a parapet is. And some of them, I've seen some parapets where they have angled things off the side. So like if you fell, you'd be like laying down.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen parapets that are made out of nets even. I mean, there's all sorts. It's basically just a safety precaution for a roof so you don't fall off. It's interesting that that's a command. If you build a house, build a parapet.
Do not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seed, lest the yield of the seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled.
This is about mingling and mixture. It talks about this, when you come into the land, you don't mix your two different belief types. When you don't mix different types of seed would be like wheat and flax, for instance, which flax is used to make linen, or barley. And when you mix them all together, there's like a more expensive grain, more valuable grain, cheaper grain. And when you mix them together, you're ripping somebody off. But also it can change the characteristics if they cross-pollinate and stuff like that. So, all right, 10.
Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together.
Again, it's mingling again. But this in turn would cause one to work harder than the other. An ox and an ox, they're sharing the load. An ox and a donkey, you may be putting extra load on the donkey. I mean, this is all philosophical,
Mm-hmm.
comments that I'm making about these verses. This is not exact. I don't know that these are the reason that the verses are, but these are different scenarios that I've looked into that some scholars agree with. I'll leave it like that.
Do not put on a garment of different kinds of wool and linen together.
Okay, so this is again something that I've looked into, and some may agree and some may not, and that's fine. But there is this thing about the frequency of these garments. I think you and I have spoken about this, Karen, to each other.
Mm-hmm.
That if you wear straight wool, 100% wool, it actually corresponds with the human body as far as frequency goes. It's like, I'm not going to get into that. They can do their own research. Please, I'm I'm live. My wife is putting input. We've done extensive research on this. But anyways, and linen actually elevates the frequency of the wearer. But if you mix them together, they cancel each other out, which is interesting. And other synthetic fibers that most clothing made today on the shelves in the stores, most synthetic fibers put you into a negative frequency, and even silk puts you into negative frequency, which I found very interesting because it feels nice, but it actually is bad for your frequency. Take a look into that. There's some interesting stuff there. It's not law, and it's not technically science, I guess you could say. Anyway.
Well, there is a science to it. There is.
Yeah, there is a definite correlation between frequency of the fabric and the wearer. Yes. All right, 12.
Make tassels on the four corners of the garment with which you cover yourself. Okay,
so this corresponds to what's called the tzitzit, which is the tassels that. Okay, I'm going to go to Numbers 15, all the way down at the end of the chapter, and it says, "You shall." Excuse me. Sorry about this. 1 second. You shall say to them, make tzitzit on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and put a cord in the tzitzit of the corners. And it shall be for you a tzitzit, and you shall see it, and you shall remember all the commands of Jehovah, and you shall do them. Do not search after your own heart and after your own eyes with which you went whoring, so that you remember and shall do all my commands. Right? So that's a tzitzit. And here it goes further and saying that it's on the four corners. So there is a group of, there's a faith-based organization that wear tassels, but they wear it all the way around the bottom of their shirt as actual tassels, like, hanging strings all the way around the bottom hem of their garment, which that means they're paying attention to numbers, but they're ignoring Deuteronomy. And I've actually come across these people because they get mad at me for wearing tzitzit. And I went to this verse, and they were like, I didn't know that verse was there. And then I went back to the verse that they were talking about, because they believe that they're the special boys. They're the only ones allowed to wear tzitzit. And when I went back to Numbers 15, it says that anyone that joins themselves is Israel. Anyone that joins himself to Jehovah is Israel. And there's no special boys, right? And after I showed them that, they stopped giving me grief. But these people actually act as royalty on the street when they're doing, what's it called? Like street preaching. You know what I'm saying? Like street preachers. But they hang out in a group, and they're basically like, well, we're the special people because we're God's chosen people. Now kiss our feet and stuff like that. Weird stuff like that. And then we're not talking about small hats. We're talking about another group of people, but people with a darker tan than me. And it's pretty crazy. It's like, why are we doing the special people thing? Why don't we just say, okay, y'all are not living according to Scripture. We are, and that's what makes us connected with the Creator. Anyway. 13.
All right. When any man takes a wife, and shall go into her, and shall hate her, and shall make abusive charges against her, and bring an evil name on her, and say, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I did not find her a maiden.
Okay, so this guy's making a false claim that, this wife that he doesn't like, she wasn't a virgin when I married her, right? She wasn't unengaged. So it says because he hates her, right? He's making it up. And what we're going to get into here, I would not personally do, even though it's in the Scripture. It's a little too far even for me. Okay, verse 15. You'll see.
Then the father and mother of the young woman shall take and bring out the proof of the girl's maidenhood to the elders of the city at the gate.
This word proof is not in there. That's why it's italicized. Yeah. So what is the proof? When they had a new marriage, they had a white sheet under them. And typically there would be a discharge of blood when it's the first time, and that would be the proof. So, yeah. So they would like represent the sheet. Like, see, she wasn't with somebody before.
And the girl's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he hates her.
Okay.
And see, he has made abusive charges against her, saying, I did not find your daughter a maiden, and yet these are the proofs of my daughter's maidenhood, and they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city.
See, again, this is not something I would do personally, because, well, number one, unfortunately, the people of this time don't care that much if they're a virgin. You know,
Yeah, it's really not that big of a deal these days.
Yeah, times have changed. All right.
And the elders of that city shall take that man and punish him.
Okay.
And fine him 100 pieces of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman, because he has brought an evil name on a maiden of Israel, and she is to be his wife. He is not allowed to put her away all his days.
Okay, so he has a responsibility to her. You know, he's been with her. Now it's his responsibility to take care of her, even if he doesn't like her. So this thing about, you know, the Old Testament says that you can just like have a divorce for whatever reason, and it's fine that the guy gets to choose and just divorce a woman. That's not the way it works. Here we have a situation where they're newlyweds.
Mm-hmm.
Then the guy doesn't like her, and he's like, she wasn't a virgin when I married her. And then they show proof, and then they're charging him an additional dowry. So in other words, like if anything happens to him, there's additional finances to take care of the woman. I mean, it's just, you know, there's a lot of respect for women in these cases. They don't want them to be without. They don't want them to be screwed over by some dude that just wants to have his way with her and go off and do his own thing. That's not the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, people have this delusion because Yeshua said, you know, about the letter of divorce, but there's context to all these things. All right, 20.
But if the matter is true that the girl was not found a maiden, then they shall bring out the girl to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done wickedness in Israel, to whore in her father's house. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst.
So in this scenario, she's had sex with a man in her father's house and didn't tell anybody. And so she's brought out and stoned to death.
I feel like this is not right.
It is the way it is. I mean, this is culturally way far separated from
here's where
what we're used to.
I know, but here's what's bothering me a little bit about this, just to digress for a minute. But
well,
like
there's going to be more scenarios. Just to let you know, there's more scenarios coming up. Go ahead.
Okay, but this right here, if the guy lies about her and says, you know, she wasn't a maiden, what if they don't have the proof? What if she just didn't bleed, or they didn't, you know, what if they can't prove she was a maiden, but she was, and he lies? Then she gets stoned to death. But if the guy lies, he just has to keep caring of her. Like he doesn't get any sort of punishment for almost getting this woman stoned to death. That's like trying to have somebody killed.
Yeah, I agree. This is a very nuanced situation, and it goes further because it's like if a guy does sleep with her, they're supposed to go tell the father, and then that guy has to pay the dowry and be her husband whether he wanted to or not. He can't just have a one-night stand.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't that, she's, it's not that she was with another man. It was she was with another man and hid it. But in the situation of not bleeding, I know that there are situations like, for instance, I've heard that females that do horseback riding can, you know, basically lose their virginity without being with a man.
Mm-hmm.
But women were not, I mean, nobody was allowed to ride horses in Israel. So that scenario is not even possible. But, the the likeliness of there being proof is high, and the likeliness of a guy saying that she's not a virgin is very low in these scenarios. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, the cultural differences changes a lot of scenarios. So if you had a girl that was protected, because in the family of the Israelites, the daughter is the most valued treasure. So she's protected all of her life. And then, when she's given to her husband, she's supposed to be pure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in this scenario, the likelihood of there being proof is high, and the likelihood of somebody saying, I don't like her and she's not a virgin is very low. And I'm not saying that is, any reason for you to feel any better about it or anything like that. It's just, it's a cultural difference that, we don't understand, because we've got, like I said, in today's society, nobody even cares if the woman's a virgin anymore.
Yeah.
And I think it should be a valuable thing for a woman to still be a virgin when she gets married, or a man to still be a virgin when he gets married. But culture has changed. Unfortunately, it's a big separation. And this is the problem with when people read the Torah and they have no context of the rest of the Torah, right? Like, we've been reading, 1, 2, 3, 4 books and most chapters, and you get a context of how there's a responsibility to everything. There's a cause and effect to everything. So that when you get to this point, you don't just pull this, verse out of context and saying, see, this is how the whole Bible is. It's like the woman gets stoned for no reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these are not things, that is taken lightly. All these things are, like it says, taken before the judges, and the matter is searched out, et cetera, et cetera. All right, 23.
Are we at 23 or 22?
Yeah. Well, 22 is what caused the. Oh, no, you're
No,
right.
it isn't.
22. I'm sorry.
Yeah. When a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then both of them shall die, both the man that lay with the woman and the woman, thus you shall purge the evil from Israel.
So here they're caught in the act because they're not disclosing the information. They're just, not honoring the betrothal. So here again, the man and the woman are put to death. All right, 23.
Mm-hmm. When a girl who is a maiden is engaged to a husband, and a man finds her in the city and lies with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and shall stone them to death with stones, the girl because she did not cry out in the city, and the man because he has humbled his neighbor's wife. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst.
So again, a guy ravished with a chick and has her way with her, but the girl didn't say stop. The girl didn't cry out. So, yeah, it was consensual, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
25.
But if a man finds the girl who is engaged in the field, and the man takes hold of her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die.
Keep going.
But you shall do no matter to the girl. The girl has no sin worthy of death, for the matter is like a man who rises against his neighbor and murders him, a being.
Okay, keep going.
For he found her in the field, she cried out, the engaged girl, but without anyone to save her.
Okay, so he found her out wandering around. had his way with her, but she has no way of screaming or calling for help or anything to defend herself. This is basically a rape scenario,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So he gets stoned, she doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're saying that rape is akin to murder,
Mm-hmm.
according to Torah, right? All right, 28. Like I said, there's a lot of scenarios here.
Yeah.
So,
When a man finds a girl who is a maiden, who is not engaged, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found out, then the man who lay with her shall give to the girl's father 50 pieces of silver, as she is to be his wife, because he has humbled her. He is not allowed to put her away all his days.
okay, so she's not engaged. They are involved in sex, and then that's it. They're married, right? There's no such thing as a one night stand.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 30.
A man does not take his father's wife, nor uncover his father's skirt.
Uh, uncover his father's wings, not skirt, but still. All right, so in other words, if you take, your father's wife, you're basically having sex with your father if you take your father's wife because he
Well,
said sex.
well, wouldn't that be your mother?
Not necessarily, because remember, there's possibilities of multiple wives.
Yeah, well,
That's what this is talking about.
I
Obviously,
still
yeah.
think it's
There's
unfair
also
that a man who accuses his wife of not being a maiden doesn't get any punishment except for, no, 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 you got to keep taking care of her. And then this poor girl is stuck with a guy who tried to lie about her and get her stoned to death. Like, that's not cool.
yeah. Well, I mean, when it talks about he's not allowed to put her away, it means that he's still responsible for her. To make sure she eats, has clothes, a place to live, and he has to pay double the dowry so that if anything happens, like let's say he doesn't follow it and sends her away, then she has double a dowry to live off of. Like that's a lifetime of income. So it's not no punishment. It's just like the guy who didn't go about it the right way and ask her father's permission. He only has to pay 50 pieces of silver for the dowry. And again, culturally, it's very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the protection that a man would have over his daughter, the way that young women go out and date, that's not Torah. You don't have girls going out with some dude alone somewhere to meet each other, to hang out with. That's not how it's done. So culturally, the possibility of her even being alone with a guy for anything like that to happen is very slim, because she's the most valued treasure, so she's very well protected. So imagine if you never let your daughter out of her you never let your daughter out of your sight, the likelihood of her not being a maiden when she's married is very slim. And that's why it's like talking about like it had to be in his house, right?
I guess so.
Yes, it's culturally hard for us to even connect. Like I said, I would never lay a sheet down to prove my daughter's virginity. I just wouldn't do it. Nor would I.
You're not a very good Torah follower, Jack.
I know. If I was in a community that lived according to the same standards, then it would be different.
Yeah.
Then I would probably do it, right? Because then there would be a standard of the man being trustworthy enough to be, to have saved himself for her and her for him,
Yeah.
But I can't trust it these days,
I know. It's rare. Very rare.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, if you look at, and I'm not saying that these people are perfect by any means. Okay. I'm just saying, if you look at like the Amish community compared to our community, it's very different.
Oh yeah.
The way that the girls are protected in that household is very similar to Torah style. They're like not let out of sight. So even culturally, like even something that we in America can see the difference in culture just by looking at the Amish, which is like, one step closer to an isolated community where they're very well protected. I don't like their tradition of, I forget what it's called, but in their later years and they're approaching the 20th year, they're allowed to go out into the English world and do stuff and come back.
Oh yeah, that's right. They like give them like they come of age, and it's like, okay, now you go out and experience the real world.
Right. Go have a chance to have sin and then come back. If I was in that community, I'd be like, nah, nah, forget that. Stay here, stay safe. A lot of them, it's like Rough Springer or something like that. I forget what it's called. But anyways, a lot of them end up being like addicted drug addicts and stuff, like
Oh, did
because
you
they just
ever
indulge and they go crazy.
remember when it was one of those years ago, there was one of those TV networks that had like a reality show based on the Amish people, and then them doing
Yep.
that, and it showed those girls like going all nuts and going into clubs and kissing other girls, and
Rumspringa.
yeah.
That's what it's called. Yeah. Yeah, that's what they do. They go nuts
Yeah,
because
they were going
they've been
nuts.
sheltered their whole life and they're like, oh, what's this experience? And you try a little bit of drugs and they're like, whoa, mind blown. And then they just go off the deep end and become drug addicts and sluts and and I'm not talking about just the females here. I'm talking about the males too, and it's a horrible thing because it's like if you live that sheltered life, then the 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 lights and the sounds of the English world are very tempting, right? That's the way this world's built to be tempting for us to get away from the creator. So once they're exposed to that, they're just all up in it. And it's a shame. But that's what I'm saying. Like culturally, that's very different. If you look at how well the daughters are protected in those communities, imagine if there was an entire community, that lives according to Torah. The likelihood of that scenario playing out is very, very slim. And the only reason that command exists is probably because, somebody tried it. Somebody was like, probably one dude was like, I don't like her. I'm just going to say that she wasn't a virgin. And they're like, no. Now you got to pay double the, he's already paid the dowry. And now that he's accused her of that, he's got to pay twice the dowry. So now he's paid 3 times the dowry, and he has to stay taking care of her. So, and she can choose, right? Like we've talked about in previous chapters, she can choose to be divorced, but she can't marry again if she does, right? So, in divorce, according to Torah, divorce means you never want to be married. Like you're done. Like marriage is not for me. That's it. You can't remarry if you divorce. But she has an option for that, and he would have had an option for that as well. But he wanted to be able to remarry again. And that's why he called the false claims so that he could get rid of her and pick a different wife. But
I still feel like the female's getting the bad rap here because now she can't marry again, so she's like forever betrothed to this guy who lied about her like in the very beginning of their marriage. And so if she doesn't want to be with that person, she's just, that's it, you have to be alone forever. Like I still feel like she gets done dirty in that situation. Like no matter what.
Like I said, in our culture that doesn't work. I agree. It's hard for me to even wrap my mind around that kind of a culture, but that's just the way it is. That's the way it was. Alrighty. Shout out to Valley Parks, NDB, Artseer, Boston Ray. Inhuman Ways, Alex Javier, Austin Murphy, Boy. Hey, Cammy, Forgotten Fashions, Less 3D. A lot of new names here. Let's see. Flat Earth Andy, Effed Up World, Vincent, all one. All right, there we go. All right, I'm sure there's gonna be some chit chat in the in the chat from this conversation. All right, let's see. What is satin made of? I don't know. You'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I think satin is synthetic.
I think so too. Or it might be a silk, another fiber mixture, which again, the scripture says it's a bad idea to wear mixtures anyway. So are actors screwed with their profession since one of them is dressed up like men and women, etc., is acting wrong? Also, funny how they made black men dress up as women. Dave Chappelle refused. Yeah, I mean there's this whole thing. Again, this has nothing to do with Torah, okay? But there are confessions of a lot of actors that say they were made to, you know, play a female role because it's it's a sign that you can be humiliated for the sake of staying in the group, right? To be famous, to be rich, and et cetera, et cetera. Like they didn't want to do it, but if they wanted to stay famous, they had to do it, you know?
This is interesting. I didn't know this. Satin is a type of weave. It's a type of weave that produces a characteristically glossy, smooth, or lustrous material. And it's either usually silk, polyester, or nylon. Of course, polyester and nylon being the synthetic materials, but I guess satin can be made from silk.
Well, there you go.
So you gotta read the label.
Remember Numbers 15, if I have to defend seats, yeah. Yeah, some people are angry at this man. This is so interesting. Is there a call-in? No, not for now, but we may in the future do something like that. I don't know.
Did you see the question about actors dressing up like men and women?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay.
I said that they're basically like, to stay in the club, they have to embarrass themselves even if they don't want to dress like women.
Mm.
Exchanging fluids is not to be done casually, in my honest opinion. Culture lowered the standards on purpose. Quoted by Cammie.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, it would not. That's what I'm saying. Like, that scenario would be a very low likelihood to ever happen. How could we do that today? I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I have a daughter and she's been in relationships. But my daughter has free will of choice and she's an adult now, and I don't get involved in it. I just don't. It hurts me as a father, right? I would rather it be the picture perfect thing of nobody is to be with my daughter except for her husband, and if he doesn't like her, he's not allowed to just send her away or live like a evil man, or, you know. Trust me, if this was Torah life, I would have taken specific men and stoned them because of the way they treated my daughter. Right? I mean, look, that it goes both ways, man. It goes both ways. There are definitely some guys where I was like, my daughter is more valuable than that. You shouldn't have treated her that way, and now you should die. So you don't do that to another woman. But anyway, that's my honest opinion. So Aisling and Valley are having a personal conversation about missing their husbands, and Yah bless you, and may Yah be the comfort and your husband, since you no longer have your human husband. It basically says, don't bang your stepmom. Yep, that's what it says. It's a blunt way of putting it. Never knew that about women and horses thing. Yeah, there was. This is something I heard about a long time ago, like that females riding horses can actually lose their virginity before they're with a man. Paul also addressed this issue in the New Testament. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what this is in reference to. Valley Parks is talking about the dime in the shoe. Remember the payphone? Okay, she's just reminiscing about back in the day. Rumspringer, yeah. Vincent Loonman also knew the name of it. Yeah, I couldn't think of the word. Thomas are building tiny houses for hurricane survivors in North Carolina. It's horrible what happened.
The Amish. She meant to say the Amish.
Oh, the Amish are. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're, as far as like their style of community, dang, dude, that's something to be admired.
It is. Even if you don't really agree with like the whole religious part of it, as far
Right.
as like how they live and how they have a really good work ethic and that they value their families, you know,
Exactly.
and they are very
Very good with community, like building
self-sufficient.
houses together
And they're self-sufficient. They
Throwing
raise
food
and grow
together.
food, you know, like that really it is.
Yeah,
You know.
it's what to be admired. My father had a shotgun. They said no trouble here. Exactly. Like even going back a couple generations, a man would be like, "What are you going to do with my daughter?" You know,
Mm-hmm.
that was that was respect. You would not screw around with that and say, "Nah, she wasn't a virgin." Like, what'd you say? Anyway, the Amish almost got it right. Lol. Yeah, they're stuck in their religion though. That's the downside of them. Um, the way they dress is a little scary. Okay.
They make their own clothes, you know.
I don't see that as scary, but whatever.
I don't think it's scary. I mean, they make they make their own clothes. They're very self-sufficient and resourceful people.
Shout out to Inhuman Ways and Captain Caveman, because they just showed up in the chat. The what I think may be the influence of saying the way they dress is a little scary is because horror movies have portrayed people like that. You know what I'm saying? Like with the black and the white, you know. The 10 words fixes a lot of mishaps, lol. Shotgun wedding was very real thing. Exactly. Like you've been with my daughter. She's pregnant. You're gonna marry her. No two ways about it. Is there a connection between whore and horse logistically? It was the horses, not the horses. I don't know.
I don't think so, but that's funny.
All right, so Flat Earth Andy said the one that Paul addressed was in First Corinthians 5. And shout out to Isabella Live. Love to all. Hi, Morgan from Flat Earth Andy. All right, we can wrap it up now. And I'm sorry it was such a triggering verse. I understand. And culturally, it's hard for us to even come close to even understanding what that would be like. You know?
I mean, it's sometimes it's hard, you know, even for me to even remember. Like, we're talking about a completely different time. We're talking about like thousands of years ago. Literally.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
You're right, maybe.
Sorry,
I don't know.
but
it is a long time ago.
It is a long time ago. We'll give it that.
And it's like, and then you look at like where we are today as a society, where like the tolerance for BS back then was like very, very low. Like they were not having any of it. Not any of it.
None of that shenanigans of like, you know, you can't get away with just saying shit. It's like, for instance, the thing like if they go to court and somebody's accused of murder. And like, oh, I saw that happen, but you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're now accused of murder. So, which, I mean, if you think about it, like I'm just taking it a step farther. If you're a murderer, it would be very good to place the blame on somebody else.
Right.
So that false testimony may be because you're the murderer. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyway,
Well,
Shabbat
it's
Shalom,
true.
y'all.
It's true. All right. Yes, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining us for another episode of Anti-Religious Scripture Study.
And the earth is still
And
flat.
the earth is still flat. And have a restful day. And we'll see you next time.